Tell me when have you started?
Yeah. You're a mom, you speak in front of people all the time.
Alright.
And action.
Trick or treat, smell my feet, give me something good to eat. Does anybody remember that from their childhood? Well, I remember well saying those words as a child while going from door to door collecting the year's best candy. Halloween is a mysterious time of year for certain, and it goes by many, many names. Of course, we all know it as Halloween. There's also All Hallows Eve, Dia de la Muerta, or the Day of the Dead, All Saints Day, and of course, again, Halloween, which is what we call it here in the United States. Today we'll talk about its origin and history. We'll cover three main points. It's Celtic in origin, traditions away from Ireland, and then history and traditions in America. The tradition of Halloween must have started somewhere, so let's move on to where it started. Obviously, I've already told you it's Celtic in origin. Let's find out why. According to Holidays, Festivals, and Celebrations of World Dictionary, Halloween is thought to have existed over 2,000 years ago among the Celtic people. The Samhain Festival is what they called it, and that is the celebration that happened from their fall harvest, and that would mark the day of winter when it started. During the winter time in Ireland, the sun was hardly there at all, so a lot of people 2,000 years ago wouldn't make it through the winter. They would die of sickness or starvation or what have you. So they celebrated this day. They thought that the mark between October 31st and November 1st was the day where the boundaries between the dead and the living were blurred, so we could all communicate among each other, dead and living. With the end of the celebration, they thought that, the harvest of the fruits and nuts and vegetables that they had, they would also harvest the souls that didn't make it through in the past years. So, the barriers between humans, ancestors, gods, and fairies are overthrown, and the realms of each other can be visited by all. And this is where the costumes came in. We have a costume here. If you wanted to go as a football player for Halloween, you could blend in. The idea was to not look like yourself, to be someone else so that they wouldn't pick you out or single you out as an individual. Let's see. The Celts celebrated this pagan festival over 2,000 years ago in what is now Ireland, and many of its traditions have carried forward. One of those is, again, the Halloween costumes, which we'll see throughout the world. Apple bobbing and carving and lighting of jack-o'-lanterns with scary images also took place. Now that you know the origin of Halloween is from the Samhain Festival, we're going to move to the second point, which is the history and origins outside of Ireland. So we'll talk about the English. The English celebrate Halloween very much like we do, again with costumes, apple bobbing. Instead of candy, the English traditional people would hand out nuts, because nuts were a big thing during that time of year. That's when they're harvested. So, let's see. Turnip carving is also a tradition that the English had. They would refer to Halloween night as Mischief Night, and the wives or the women of the household would carve these turnips out and put tiny candles in them so that the drunk men could make it home through the fields with their little turnip lanterns. So I thought that was interesting. The Catholic people, especially in England, also celebrate All Saints Day, which is on the 1st. This ties in, this was originally a pagan festival, and once it got over into England, the Catholic Church kind of overtook it and turned it into a more religious holiday, being All Saints Day. History and traditions in America. Well, we all know about trick-or-treating, where we take our kids out. You go from door to door collecting candy. It's trick-or-treat in America. I guess the idea is you knock, you say trick-or-treat. If they don't give you a treat, then you're going to trick them. Some of those tricks might be soaping the windows, egging houses. There's all sorts of different rolling houses with the toilet paper. Between 1920 and 1950, the centuries-old practice of trick-or-treating was also revived. Trick-or-treating was a relatively inexpensive way for the entire community to share with Halloween. Let's see. Urban myths and legends in America, you always hear about the razor blades in the apples, or the poison candy, or the cult looking for the young child to sacrifice, or what have you. Overall, in America, Halloween is a fairly safe tradition, and it's just fun, safe holiday for the whole family. As you can see, there's a long history of multicultural tradition behind a holiday with many names that we refer to as Halloween. Halloween, or Samhain in the Celtic origin, there are histories and tradition beyond Ireland. The United States is among those traditions and histories. Come October, will you be at home to answer the door when some child knocks and says trick or treat? I know I will. I don't want my house to be rolled.
Good smile. And cut. You're a pretty girl.
Good job.
Cut.